Hi, I'm Gary Hall Sr. from the Race Club. Again, we're honored to have two of the world's best open water swimmers here training with the U.S. national team in preparation for the upcoming Fran Crippen Memorial Tribute Swim in Fort Lauderdale. And then followed by that in another month in the same location will be the trials for both the World Championships and the Olympic Games. So there's a lot at stake in that swim, right? Yes. We've got little different ages here. We got one of the youngest and perhaps most up-and-coming talents in open water swimming, Eva Fabian. Eva, nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
And we also have Emily Brunemann, who's the senior statesman here with the group. So the first question I have is, how was the sandwich and food at Made to Order? Did you like that?
Awesome.
It's very good.
That was a restaurant we recommended here in the Keys. It's a pretty good place to eat.
It is.
So good to have you in a great spot in the world. And behind us you see a place where you're going to be working out, hopefully this afternoon or tomorrow. Eva, let's start with you. You're young. You're only 16.
17 now.
17, sorry.
I'm getting old.
Well, I could get slapped for that. 17, and you're already passionate about open water swimming. You're pretty young to get into it. It seems like most swimmers kind of transition at the end of their career, and you're young, and yet it seems to be something where you found your niche.
Yeah, my first open water race actually was when I was 11, and it was when I really decided that I loved the sport because it was in Atlantic City and it was just 1.5 miles, but it was boys and girls together, and my brother was in the race, and he had been talking some trash to me for a week leading up to the race, and it was basically my goal in life to beat him in this race. And I know if it was in the pool he probably would have beaten me, but he got lost at some point on this race, and I did end up beating him by about 3 minutes, and I decided that that was my sport. So pretty much ever since I was 11 I've been doing races, but I didn't really start doing the 10K until a little more recently. I think I did my first 10K when I was 14, or it's 14, and ever since then I've been doing some of those races. So.
Well, I was watching you this morning, and you have great technique. Interesting. You use a hybrid stroke, which is kind of a fast catch on one side with an extension on the other, little like Phelps and Lezak use, but you do it at a higher stroke rate, and you seem to maintain that for a long period of time, which is an interesting technique. Eva talks about something that's kind of important in open water swimming. Her brother was a better swimmer than her. Mm-hmm. She beat him by 3 minutes, as a matter of fact, because she used a better tactic. There's a lot more to open water swimming than just the fastest swimmer, right?
Yes, there's definitely a lot. It's a lot more tactical. You have to decide on a race plan and try to stick to it, but that race plan can change in the middle of a race depending on how that particular race is going. And it's a longer race, so you have to, even if you're really good in the pool at the 500 or mile, this is a 6-mile race, so you have to pace yourself. There's drafting and feeding and sighting and turn buoys and stuff, so there's a lot more that goes into open water swimming than pool swimming.
How do you help train for that? I mean, how do you teach that? Is that something you can only go out in the ocean or in the bay or in the river or open water and do, or is that something you actually practice in the pool?
I think you definitely have to get out on a course and work around the buoys and make sure that you're comfortable with it. I did the open water camp in 2009 before the nationals, and that just kind of opened my eyes to everything that you need to know for open water. And if I hadn't have done that camp, I wouldn't have known what I was doing. And but you definitely have to get out in the ocean or lake or river and get a feel for being out in that open water environment and feeling comfortable with the animals that are there and everything, and then also just knowing that feel of going around turn buoys and sighting and stuff like that.
Let's talk about sighting for a minute. Maybe each of you can give your advice. A lot of swimmers who start open water aren't sure exactly how often they should sight, and when they do sight, how long they should keep their head up. And do you guys have a rule of thumb that you follow, or does it depend on each course and each condition?
It really does depend on each course and condition. So if you're getting a lot of chop in your face, it's probably not going to be beneficial to be sighting every 10 strokes because you're probably not going to be seeing the buoy very often. So you have to time it really with the waves for like the best time to look for it. But usually I find it helpful to pick like a stroke number and sight every certain number of strokes, partly because it sort of gets you into rhythm, and also because you make sure that you're sighting then and you're not forgetting to sight. So
When I think for me, when I went to that camp, something that we did that was so beneficial for me was they had us out in the lake and they had us close our eyes and swim like 50 strokes and see where we ended up on when we started from when we finished, to see if you veer to the right or to the left or if you swim straight. I think if you veer to the right or left, then you may have to sight a little bit more than somebody who swims straight. So knowing how you swim and where your tendencies go, I think, is really important, and I think that falls into sighting.
Is there a trick to learning to swim straight, or is it just something you seem to have kind of a natural instinct for, or do you learn to do it better over time?
I think you learn to do it better over time, but I think the beginning part of knowing where you are is really important, and I was lucky to have swam really straight, but I know some people who went like 50 strokes in the wrong direction, so it's something that you know.
Huge right arm and a little left
exactly.
Well, it's certainly one of the tactics that makes a huge difference in an outcome and your ability to stay on course or use currents to your advantage. There's so many things that beyond just the swim. There are 3 different events in the World Championships. There's a 5K, a 10K, and a 25K. They're very, very different swims, and yet in the Olympics, I believe it's only going to be a 10K.
Yep.
Yes.
Because of that, do you try to focus more of your attention on the 10K, or do you have a specialty, Eva?
Definitely. I think the 10K, I mean, the 25K I would say would be a totally different animal from the 5 and 10, which are more similar than, say, the 10 and the 25. So I think training for the 5 and 10 can be pretty similar, but if you are training for the marathon swims, which is a 25K, that's a lot different.
Yeah, and you have to, I think your training definitely is different between the 10 and 25, and since the Olympic event is the 10, I think pretty much everybody's focusing on that training tactic for the 10K.
Well, I was the father of a sprinter, but I never laid any claim to being a sprinter. But I will say, God bless anybody who swims the 25K. That is an amazing event, and it takes amazing stamina and willpower to do that. But a lot of people are doing it, so it's kind of like the double Ironman or some of these amazing events that people can do if they really want to.
Right.
Well, I'll be up in Fort Lauderdale to watch you both. Good luck to you. Thank you for coming to the Keys. Emily, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Eva, you're beautiful and young. Not as young as I thought, but you're still young.
I'm getting old now.
17. Anyway, I'll look for great things for you guys and stick with it.
Thank you.
Very